All right. I'm going to try out our friend Zoom here. So far, so good. Wonder if I can see the comments now. I may just have those comments open though. That's okay. All right. Hopefully I don't make my computer mad. And then we'll have YouTube open too. Keep an eye on the comments. Oh, yeah, broken one was published too. We'll go ahead and delete that. All right, and we're on. Looks good to me. Okay. Streaming is a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. Oh my goodness. I thought I'd be able to figure it out like this morning. I should have done a dry run yesterday or something. That would have been a good idea. All right. I'm going to fill up on some coffee real quick and ask my wife to join for a test, and then we'll get going. This is super important before I go. Get back. All right, audio test. How does it work now? Sounds good. Okay, a little bit of a lag, but that's okay. Who knew Zoom would be better at this thing? All right. Well, because I wasted so much time this morning, I'm just going to jump right into it. First one, we're tackling GitHub issues, GitHub Actions, and Bash. And let me show you all what I got going on. So my wife and I, to keep track of like house projects, we live in a really old house and it needs a lot of work. So to keep track of projects, we for a while we were using this whiteboard here. Pretty simple. It's got a to-do column, a WIP work in progress column, and then a done column. And we write our little projects on cards and we move things over as we go. I love using a regular whiteboard for it. It's this green light, green light. I like using the regular whiteboard, but the problem we hit is like, it's a real pain in the butt keeping it stocked up with like markers and stickers and index cards. And it's just like a lot of stuff. So we're finally making the switch over to software. And the system that caught my eye is this GitHub projects page. It was hidden in there. It takes a bit to find. But anyway, here it is. I like that it ties back to GitHub issues, which is super cool because I'm like really used to like using these. So we can even like, group our, we could even group our work by milestones, things like that. We can close them out when we're all done with something, or we can just leave it open, that kind of thing. What I don't like is that there's some automation missing. Like one thing that I don't like is when you drag a card over to done, it doesn't close the issue out. Like you can see if I click on hang a new painting, I just jump into there. It's still open. And that'd be sweet if like you moved it to done and it just closed, because I don't want to have to like go over here and close it. So that's one issue that I didn't like. I'm gonna move that to backlog. And the other thing I didn't like is when you add a new issue. Let's add a test issue here. I even add a template. We make it sound like a real task. Figure out how to stream live. This is what we usually put on cards. We put how much money it's going to cost, like, in case you need to buy something fancy to get it done, and then effort. We use t-shirt size as well, let's be honest. Streaming's hard. So the other thing I didn't like is when you create a new issue, it doesn't automatically go to the project board. So you see the one I just created. The way you add it is you got to go here, and then you got to drag it over. She wants to do that. And as far as I know, you have to drag it too. You can't just double click it. And you can see, what did that actually do to the issue when I dragged it over? You can click on it. All that did here was in this side panel here, it just added, projects to board. So that's another little piece that I'd like to automate. While looking around, so this is an issue that I definitely expect like GitHub to fix like within the next few weeks, but I figure we can have some fun in the meantime. Looking around, a lot of people are using this GitHub action. I'll show you that. Let's see if I can find that. GitHub action move issues project. Like this. Anyway, you get the idea. They opened this GitHub Actions marketplace, and people have been cranking on their own custom actions. So there's definitely something out there to already do this. The project I found was written in Node.js. It was very big and robust, and it could like do labels and stuff. But where's the fun in that? I wanted to get it done, and I decided to use Bash. So anyway, our first goal, I figure the easiest thing to attack is when I add a new issue. Add it to the board. That's the easiest one. And I cheated. I was already kind of setting up the boilerplate for this yesterday. So let me just refresh my stuff here. Show what I got going on. All right. So GitHub Actions are defined here. It's in this .github workflows, and I got an actions.yaml here. This is when you tell GitHub Actions like what event you want it to respond to. There's a page that's like all the things that can trigger actions. It can be like a manual action. You can set it up on a cron to like just do it regularly. And down here is where you define like what it actually does. So I already got started on this. This is the move to project job. So in other words, when a new issue is opened, we want it to add the issue to the board. And then I've even got this bash script here. So the only thing it does is it first just checks out my code, and then it runs bash. I call that actions bash. Let me show you what's in there. This is kind of how most of my bash scripts start. I like to write this little log function to put it in a snippet. All that does is just echo it to standard out. So if I run this here, actions bash, starting script, everything we need. All right, before we get going, I'm going to set my timer to 25 minutes, just so I remember to stand up and stretch my back. Let's do it. Okay, so I was looking through the docs. So when this action's triggered, I'm assuming that there's some way to get to the issue ID that triggered it. So like a new issue's opened. I'm guessing that GitHub figures out a way to squirt a bunch of data into the action that you can use. So that's like, I guess that's our first fact finding mission. We need to find when an issue is opened, what is the ID or anything about it. Hopefully we don't have to query for the ID or anything. Pretty sure that's going to be like context. Let's see. Context. Yeah, I think this is getting close. So we have a special, so these are all the things that GitHub Actions injects into the jobs. GitHub and job steps runner. I've definitely worked with secrets before. This is an example of like kind of how to do that. Like I pasted there because I knew I need it later. But this is just directly accessing the secrets in your repo, which is neat. Good to see you too, Vicente. Vicente's the man. You're awesome. When are you making more music? Vicente makes some good music. Check him out. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, this directly accesses the secrets in your repo, which is cool. I really like that. I hope GitHub Secret Manager takes off. It's good stuff. But anyway, we're getting distracted. So we got to, so I'm assuming it's going to be probably in the GitHub context. GitHub context contains information about the workflow run, an event. Yeah. We want information about the events that triggered the run. Oh, GitHub event. Oh yeah, this is where the docs kind of like drop off. It's like, okay, what is event is an object? What is inside of that? I think we're just gonna have to just dump it to the screen and then just see what's inside of it. So GitHub action log. How do you do that? Let's just open the same page I'm on. That's silly. Okay. Oh, there we go. Dump GitHub context. That sounds like what we want to do. Not all of it, because I don't want to accidentally like leak a secret to the screen. Let's try throwing that in there. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that's easy. So that's just a run command. I already had that. And then it's calling this built-in function to JSON. So we're gonna want to dump GitHub. What was that called? GitHub event. That's a handy snippet to have around. Push that up, see what it does. Context to screen. We're gonna make an issue now. So why don't we close that guy? Issue. See if I'm in the context. Submit that. If everything went according to plan, there should be an action run getting kicked off right now. Look at that. Move to project. Look at that. There we go. Okay, so we have action opened. I'm going to copy this into Emacs here, just so I can run around it a little faster. There's probably a secret in there. So we're going to say, I'm going to commit this so we can see. Let's see if there's anything like an issue ID. Find that. ID, look at that. All right, so why don't we copy that into our function just so we know where it is. So ID from that is located. Well, because GitHub, we're probably not going to be getting that from Bash. I think it'd be easier just to pass this into the Bash script. So why don't we do this instead? We're going to change this to usage action dash issue ID. Trigger issue, just the first positional argument. And then we need to pass that in with the GitHub Actions. So that'd be bash. Ooh, I wonder if, I forget how bash actions work, so just to make sure, why don't we test that out? So if I do bash action bash my ID, there it is. Okay, so that works like I expected it to. Should be able just to go GitHub events. What was it called? Oh yeah, GitHub event issue.id. We'll put that in quotes. I probably use a little too many quotes when I write bash, but bash is nasty because, like, I guess that's a sanitary thing, because if this happens to be like 2 tokens, like with a space in between, bash will treat those as 2 arguments, which is unfortunate if you're like parsing a string and, like, you have a script that's like my script, and then the thing you pass in is like the arg, which happens more often than you think, like parsing text, like the shell can be nasty like that. So just to avoid that, I always put quotes around anything I pass into bash, because it'll just treat this like 1 argument, even if there's spaces. It's the same thing with like naming files and stuff. Like, if you get a little sloppy, you can fool bash into thinking you're passing in more arguments than you intended. So I use lots of quotes. I also like how they change color, Say, okay, that's an arg because it's purple, whatever Emacs makes it. Let's run that. So we're passing the GitHub issue ID, and we're going to, in our context, we're just going to leave that alone. Change that little log line. Pass in issue ID. Back over to GitHub. Close that guy out. New issue. Over to GitHub Actions. Everything went according to plan. It should print the ID. Oh, look at that. You could even see it in the arg. Triggered by issue ID. Okay, cool. So we have the ID, and now we need to figure out how to add it to our project, because these projects here are dynamic. I'm guessing I need to look it up. There's probably an API to fetch it, but I don't want to have to figure out how all that works through GitHub Actions. So where I'm going now, I would like to be able to develop this locally. We know the issue ID works. In fact, we can even just leave this issue open, and I can just use the ID here. Oh, that's interesting. So on GitHub, this is issue 24. And then what did it actually pass in? It looks nothing like that number. Interesting. Hope we got the right ID. Anyway, so we're going to try to figure out how to get this going locally. So the stub issue ID we have is here. That's test issue. Let's start simple. Let's just figure out how to run a curl command against GitHub. GitHub REST API. And I'm going to authentication. Oh yeah, this is okay, cool. So the way you authenticate yourself to GitHub, that's your GitHub username, which we're gonna hard code for now, and that should be your repo token. That's super easy to create. You could just do it from your settings, or not your repo. I think that's just tied to your user. So here's what I like to do. Whenever I have a curl that just needs the same arguments passed into it all the time, I like to make a little wrapper function. Log. We're going to call it curl with an underscore. All right, so we got curl username. Oh, and then there's a matter of getting the token. Okay, so this is going to get interesting now. So when we're running in GitHub Actions, we have it available here. I went ahead and I saved the GitHub app, the token in my password manager. Issues, that wasn't there. Passwords still are. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I've got it saved in my password manager. So I'm going to write a little function to detect when I'm running it locally. Because if it's running locally, it should get the token out of my password manager. And if it's not, how about we just have it get it from an environment variable instead? Let's just do that. Nice and simple. All right, let's do this. So we're going to go environment, GitHub token. Borrow that. Don't need that in comment now. Let's put quotes around it. That should work. Let's make a function. So GitHub token. So we need like an if running locally, do this. If not, get it from somewhere else. I'll close that. GitHub Actions. I'm looking for like a standard environment variable that GitHub Actions set. I'm assuming that there's one in there. Like, okay, yeah, this is pretty common. Travis did this too. GitHub Actions does also, but when CI is set to true, that means you're running in Actions. You can just use that. You can also check this. I mean, there's a number of ways to do this. I like CI though. All right, so we're going to do if the CI environment variable set. Well, we could be even simpler. How about we just, why don't we do this? How about if GitHub Actions, if the GitHub token environment variable set, then we're good. Otherwise, get it out of the password manager. Let's do that. If GitHub. Now that I think about it, this doesn't even need to be a function. We can just set it if it's not set at the top. All right. This may seem insane, but this is how I really write bash scripts. Okay, bash set environment variable if default variable. Assigning default values to shell variables. Yeah, that's what we want. This is what I'm looking for. Oh, yeah. The real question is, can I evaluate a function in here? Nope, too complicated. We're just going to throw this at the top. So this is how you do if this environment variable, the -z flag means if it's not set. So we can straightway change that to GitHub token. Then we're going to set it. So if it's not set, we're going to set it for my password manager, which is pass GitHub plan. Check out pass. If you're looking for something really simple to work with passwords, I love pass. It's a pretty modern tool in terms of like what it integrates with, but all it does is just all it does is just save your passwords into GPG files. So it makes it dead simple for Git too. I like that. Check out pass. That's one tool that I've really grown to love. We don't need an else. So set good and then why don't we do a log line here to be like getting it out of password manager. GitHub token not set. Retrieving from pass. All right. So set the GitHub token not set. And then we should be able to just slap it right here. GitHub token. I actually, last night when I was tooling around with this, I had it a function. I like this way better. Nice and simple. And then we should have our API. Okay, cool. So I'm going to, since this is a function wrapper for curl, how about we say that you just need to pass in the relative URL you want. That seems like a good idea. Nice and sanitary about our bash strings. Other flags you probably want, we want curl to be silent. We don't want it to make any noise. So let's try that out. Let's try looking up this issue that we have here. So some tabs. GitHub issues. All right. Get an issue. Turns 301 move permanently if status is transferred on positive. Good. We got owner, repo, issues, issue number. Oh, interesting. So the ID, remember we went through all that trouble to find what the ID was? It turns out that I guess the issue number is different. Let's see what number we actually want. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, let's just test it to make sure, but I'm pretty sure if what we have here is not the issue number. That's like going to match the URL exactly. So we're going to do a curl, repos, owner, and we're going to pipe it to JQ. Double checking it to make sure I don't dump this token in the stream. Okay. Oh yeah, we don't need to pass an ID. That's okay. Okay, stuff happened. Log subcommand. Apparently it's getting, oh, I see why, okay. I guess that's probably, since log is a command, it might be considered bad practice that I'm clobbering it with a function. We'll be nice and tidy and do underscores instead. Yeah, but other than that, that made me think of something else. So it puked on the log command. It's like what? I'm a real command. You're treating me like a function. And then it kept powering on. And printed this. That's a 404. Okay, cool. So we got the issue ID, but I think what we need is the issue number, like the thing that's actually in the URL. When you go back over here. Oh, you know what? I bet, was that the number? Maybe we were getting, I think we were getting the action run ID. That could be 47435. No, it's just something else. IDs all over the place. Okay. Well, we actually just need this number, the issue 24. It's in the URL, and hopefully it should be somewhere else in the context. So let's find that. Issue. Let's check out. I see it in the URL. HTML URL, ID, number. They call it number. Okay, good. So let's first change that to number. And the other thing I wanted to do is set the -e flag. Because if we hit an error, I do not actually want bash just to keep plowing forward. That's not helpful. And why don't we also change this to 24? All right, cool. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna turn off the baby monitor while I run that. It worked. Look at all this JSON. All right, so we are back to what we had thought we had already done. That fixed some stuff, so let's push that. Issue number instead of ID. Okay. So we have the issue number now, and we need to query GitHub for the project that I created. So we could either make it dynamic and it fetches it each time, but I think instead I'm just going to okay, it's just number of project 1. I think I'm just going to hard code the ID for now. So if I, heaven forbid, if I delete this project and create a new one, all my automations will break. But, we have other live streams we could fix that in. Okay. We need to look for the API. So we want to assign this issue, like new issues that come in, we want to attach them to this project. So why don't we look at how to do that? Issues. I'm guessing that's an issue update. Same stuff. This kind of looks like the form on the website when you fill it out. Is it a milestone? It's not here. I expect to see project there. Maybe it's in the project API. Project. Create a project card. No. Copy break. I don't have all my fun screensavers installed. All right, I'm gonna grab some coffee. You guys can enjoy my fireplace. I figured out. Okay. We're back. Did the fireplace make you feel cozy? Okay. I'm gonna set another 25 minutes. And the problem at hand is still figuring out how to add an issue to the project board with the API. I'm just gonna Google it. How do you add an issue into organization project board? Project columns, column ID cards. Oh, do you go straight to the column? This looks more helpful. Okay. You do go right to the column. So create a project card. That's crazy. Let's see if I could just find that in the API. Columns. It was right there. Create, or no. I'm not sure about this API. This is weird. I think that'd be in create a project card. Says it's in projects, columns, column ID, cards. Content ID, the issue or pull request ID you want to associate with this card. Those two calls should be in there. Well, let's try it. Post. Okay, so we need to get the column ID. Oh man. I see now why the GitHub action I found had so much code in the project to handle all this. What a mess. Okay. So projects, columns, column ID. Does that mean I have to fetch the column ID too? Okay. List project columns. Get a project column. Let's just run this. Ooh, interesting. Inertia preview JSON. Project 42. Okay, so this would be 1. We just had the first one. And then I'll just go ahead and add this header to a wrapper function here. So, objects. Yeah, let's just try listing them. It's weird that this URL doesn't have the repo on it. I'm kind of fascinated by that. Weird. Let's try. Curl objects 1 columns, and that should be enough to list out the columns that we have. Intermediate guy. Let's just see what's going on. Must have admin rights to repository. What? Let's try get column. Get a project column. Projects, columns. See if I can maybe just deduce in the UI. Edit column. Nope. Got to be able to guess. We can just try column 1. Okay. I hope I don't have to create a new token. That'd be a pain in the butt. I'm worried about this. Must have admin rights to repository. Where does this take me? Oh, that's what I was looking at. Yeah, it's confusing because that's just a personal token. So I just assumed it would have all the same rights I had. Let's see. Security. No, not there. Nope. Oh, I think it's in developer settings. Personal tokens. Okay. Planning. I edit it. We're getting into dangerous territory now. Oh, at least I can edit it. Okay. So that's not too dangerous. Yeah, let's just give it all the permissions it needs. Who cares? Admin? Yeah, whatever. Admin. Okay. I don't want to touch my G. That scared me. I don't want it to touch my GPG key. Get it together, Github. You lost it. Okay, so at least I can change the permissions without updating the token. That's what I was worried about. Let's try that. Run it again. Must have that. What the heck? Something else is going on. GitHub token. I'll update. Am I not the admin of this repo? Access. Do I have to invite myself? Nope, can't do that. Projects. Must be the admin rights repository. It's a very popular error. Didn't have enough scope. Needs public repo. Okay, so we're on the same. We're on a good track with that. Let's just screw around with the settings. Maybe I didn't click enough boxes. All right, fine. Let's just give it everything. Let's do the admin rights. All right, there's something goofy going on. Oh, where did this come from? How come I don't have repo selected? Did I uncheck that accidentally? Public repo. All right. Why don't we? Now I'm feeling cavalier about best practices. Let's just uncheck all these then. What a bunch of nonsense. I'm worried that slowly over time, this is going to be a little selfie. Microsoft bought GitHub a while ago, and for a while it was like, okay, they're just going to leave it alone. It's already a successful website. GitHub is feeling more Microsofty lately. I don't have anything to back that up. Just a complaint. Just throwing it out there. It's still not working. What the heck? All right. I'm going to check every box. Update token. Something else is going on. That's not it. I'm going to change this back to. Why is repo keep getting unchecked? Am I going nuts? Okay. Repo. Update token. Now it's checked. Still not working. I thought I had a bug there for a second. Interesting. GitHub projects personal access. I wonder if just the API is not working right, or if I'm just calling the wrong endpoint. Let's see what I'm calling. Projects, columns, 42. Oh, these are linked here. Let's just try this. Create project card. projects, columns, column ID. I don't know. This header is required. So it is in preview mode. I mean, it's in beta. So the API doesn't line over what this is. This says you can pass in content ID, the issue or pull request you want to associate with this card. And then we jump here. Create project card. Is it an update? No. Okay. Let's try to get list project cards. Let's just try to get this working. I'm going to try to list columns. Get a list project columns. Project ID. Maybe I just said the endpoint wrong, and it was just returning a permission denied instead of a, you know. Let's try that. It worked. Didn't return anything though. Projects, 1, columns. Let's get a project. Maybe it's maybe 1 isn't the ID. List repository projects. Okay. Let's do that. Oh, I had a space there. That's why it didn't work. Okay. So I'm not going nuts. The token works because I can get stuff back. Look at that. It knows about the board. The ID is not 1. It's something else. It's number 1. But everywhere else, I think it's expecting ID. So maybe that's why everything else wasn't working, because I had the project ID wrong. Okay. We're going to do this. Okay. Since I don't want to have to figure out all that again, we are going to write some code just to fetch the first project ID it finds. We're going to do that. So we're going to make a function called first project ID. I'll also make it a little bit easier to iterate on. Okay. So that was projects. We're going to do a little bit of JQ. So that just returns an array. JQ. How do you do that in JQ? JQ return first. The first or nth element. No. I bet you just figured it out. That seems reasonable. And then I bet it's that. Let's see if that works. Nope, didn't work. It said cannot index array with string. Interesting. Let's try doing this. Make sure we get some JSON back. Okay, good. So that did give us some JSON back. So we want the first item in the list. So I feel like the syntax would look like that. Perfect. All right. So now that looks similar, but it's just the first object. It's not a list. And then we want the ID. So, it's something right. Okay. So that's the first project ID. We're going to go with that. And then now we want to, from the first project ID, we're going to want to, let's list the columns. So we still need to figure out how that API works. Okay, so project ID, columns. And while I still remember, yeah, let's get rid of all this nonsense now that we know how the API works. This is what this is a man who is panicking. That's the equivalent of setting up Apache and you just say, screw it, Chamath 777. Don't do that. I'll just break it. Index first out. Oh, I just broke it. That means I'm getting a permissions error back. I comment out this. It's our favorite error. He's back. Oh no, not found. That's not the same issue. Okay. Planning, projects. So what happened? Maybe that is my fault. All right. What? It happened again. It unchecked repo. What the heck? Gave me a 404. Now it's working. Weak. Not a fan of that. All right, now we have the ID. So, never touching this page again. Let's list the project columns. We have the project ID. Curl. We can just do this. First project ID columns. I'm going to run that. Swish. There's the columns. We've hit the tipping point. I think we're all done yak shaving, and now it's just going to be nothing but bash. All right, let's see if we. Okay, we have the name in here. Awesome. So that means I could even just filter it by name. I don't have to. Okay, so what was I doing now? Well, it's good that we have the columns. We'll save that aside, but we actually don't need that right now. I got so wrapped around the axle trying to figure out permissions and like how the API works that I forgot what the task at hand was. Okay, so we have a new issue that's created. We have the issue number. We can now fetch the project. So we need to create a project card from the issue. We're back to that. So we're going to go back to our mysterious Stack Overflow question here that claims it's a post to the column ID. That's why we need a column. Okay. Post to the column ID cards where you specify the content ID. Just so that might be the issue ID instead of the number. What the heck? Okay. So we're gonna go curl. I think we actually will need the column ID, so that wasn't all in vain. So we're gonna say backlog column. We have yet to write that function, but that's going to be a post. Let's write the backlog column function first. Backlog column ID. All right, coffee break. Which screensaver are we using this time? Old classic. You're back. We're back. I think, let's see, what time is it? 12:07. I think we have 2 more turns around the Pomodoro clock. I should probably think about lunch. All right, so we had all the project columns dumped here, and we need to filter them, but we need to grab the backlog column because I want new issues to join the project in the backlog column. That makes sense. I was wondering why you can't just assign it to the. That's interesting. I'm just figuring out how the API works behind the scenes. All right. We want to grab it by the name backlog. Filter list by. This is one of those JQ tricks that I've done 100 times, but I never remember how to do it. We want to be able to filter the objects by a property in each object. And there's the select function. So you grab the list and then you select it based on the value. put a new one there. So take it in, select. We want name backlog. And we also, so we want to pipe that and then grab, oh, I wonder if I need to pipe. I bet I can just do ID. So the work, it should be 123200091. Backlog column ID. Two, three, two, zero, zero, nine, one. Perfect. I love it when stuff works the first time. Content ID. I think we're ready to do a post. We have everything we need. So we just need the content ID, which is the issue. Oh, I think that's actually going to be the issue ID. Remember I made this change? Oh, remember I changed this to issue number? I think we do want it to be. We can get to that. It's clear that we just first need to get it working locally first, and then I'll worry about zipping it up with GitHub Actions afterwards. Let's just turn it into a real script now. Okay. So it's a post. Oh, interesting. I realized my wrapper function doesn't support like different HTTP methods. How will we do this? Get. Post. Not the prettiest abstraction I've ever made. It'll work. Post. I just thought of how I can make that a little better because I'm worried about the, all the curl flags are duplicated. But we're not going to worry about that yet. That's okay. So we are making a post, and then we also need to post some data, which is the content ID. ID. That's just going to be the issue that came in. Whether it's that number or the ID, I'm not sure. But that's looking ugly, writing JSON stuff into a string, but what are you going to do? I think that's all we need. Modify that guy to take some data. Post JSON data. Looks like we need a new header. And yeah, just dash dash data. All right, so we have a post, the project, columns, backlog column ID. Do something. Issue. Find our step issue. What was that? It was number 24. I have a feeling that we need to go back to ID, but we'll try 24. Let's try it. 24 is not an integer. Well, now you put quotes around it. You must provide a content type with a content ID. Content type. Liar. What is content type? Issue? I don't know. Let's try issue. Do this to make it a little easier. Card. So that way I don't have to do all the silly escaping. We'll go local issue. Now we're just using the global. Issue ID. Content type, which as far as I know is undocumented. Issue. Issue. Make sure that works. Issue ID. Perfect. That's cute. All right, let's throw it up at the API and see what happens. 24. Oh, I did it again. 24 is not an integer. Resource project card code unprocessable. Fields data. Create a project validation failed. Could not resolve to a node with the global ID of something in base 64. What's that? '64 eco 05 issue 24. That was interesting. So I bet it's ID. Let's just go back to using the ID. Huh? So the issue ID. think that was last in our output. Dump event context. So yeah, this was like one of the first things we did. I think we need to go back to using the ID. We'll just use for here. Test issue number 24. Now, same thing. You can add an issue to the repo using oh. Did you see a way add an issue to a project without adding it to a project column? This is the default behavior in the UI, but it seems like it's not possible with the API methods. Yeah, so I'm not alone trying to figure out this API. Could not resolve to a node with the global ID. Let's try one there. Global ID of. Should be content ID be a number, not a string. Pull request node ID, project column ID. Use the secret instead of the default. Permissions related. I hope it's not permissions related. Oh, you know what? Maybe it because it's querying for something. It sounds like it's trying to find, what are we looking for? It sounds like it's trying to find the right. Yeah, it sounds like a buggy permissions issue. I think. No, that's what I got because now I think I'm doing it correctly. It's the issue ID, content. I just kind of guessed there. Let's just change that to something stupid like fart. Make sure it doesn't accept anything. So it even works with fart. And actually, is fart within this output too? Eco-region. Okay, so I think I'm just assembling the ID. So I think it goes back to just me guessing at the content type because that just gets added right to the global ID. All right, so we need to Google what are some valid content types. So let's go back to we're going to look at that. You must provide a content type with a content ID. Gross, not Facebook. Oh, wait, I saw it there. Validation failed. Content type pull request. Maybe it needs to be capital. Oh, oh, did it work? Did it work? There it is. It's in the backlog. We got it. It's issue with a capital I, not issue lowercase I, not fart. Here, we'll do something fun. Please fix your API GitHub. Or run that just because I like the thought of that. This is in their logs now. All right. So I think that's it. We might be able to get it done now. So we're going to say moving issue ID to board. Post. And up here, issue ID, we're going to change that to 1. Back in GitHub Actions. Change that back to ID. Oh God, I hope the default token works. We're going to get rid of that. Leave it just in case we need it. And so moving new issue. Let's look at the script one more time before I shove it up and start playing around with it. Looks good to me. Don't need that anymore. Everything else. All right. Let's close this guy. The board automation movement. Okay. It's funny because the automation, it works only one way. Like if you update the issue, then the board is smart enough to like move it to the done column. Not the other way around though. Let's go ahead and create an issue. So we're going to say, hopefully this ends up in the board. Here we go. Move to project. Check out. And follow according to plan. It's on the board. We did good work today. I'm really excited about that. All right. I think that's a good stopping point. The next thing we'll tackle, and whenever I do another stream, when a card is moved, done column, close the issue. And I think that's going to be a little more complicated. That's going to be fun. We'll need to attach a GitHub action to the card move event, and then we'll need to do some more reverse engineering of this beta API. Man, that was fun. Hope you all enjoyed that. I'll do more of these definitely. Hey, I'll see you all around. Thanks for coming.